All right, so the first speaker will be Adam.
Thank you so much. In fact, I was just telling that more than making a presentation, I really like this to be like a discussion, because I'll take exactly 10-15 minutes, and we're all going to self-moderate so that we're not going to eat away anybody's time. So I'll tell you where I'm coming from when I suggested that I talk about a particular piece that I've been reading about, which has been about design fiction, and largely about somebody who wrote in 2010 trying to put together like a methods toolbox for design fiction to be seen as a strategic approach to looking at innovation. So this was written in 2010, right? And I'm like, okay, we are almost a decade over, and where do we stand with this conversation? And my inquiry has just begun, right? So a little bit of a context with design fiction, as you all know, we are all very inspired by science fiction. At least the West has a very different understanding of science fiction, which is extremely glorified. It has a huge fan following. And, but some of these design fictions have extremely inspired innovation to happen at various spaces, be it in engineering, be it in the hardcore sciences. It has allowed for the unimagined to happen. And for me, I'm at a point of inquiry because I come from India, and for us, innovation, do we understand innovation in the same sense as what the world understands in the so-spoken letter word in all our books? What does it mean, innovation culturally, are two things that I'm looking at. And if this design fiction had to mean anything that is different to the global south and the global north is my inquiry. And what are these impetuses within which we read or understand design fiction? So that's my starting and entry to today's discussion, right? So the first thing that I have been looking at is, one, design as a research practice, because most of the scientific scholars have been debating that they stick to research with its own epistemologies, their own sense of methodologies, which is very significantly in straitjacketed, very boxed, and they approach scientific explorations, their research in a very systematic process, right? However much any of these science guys, I keep saying science guys, not loosely, but people, to ensure that there is no divide between the sciences and the arts, because there are both processes driven now, given that the arts has now emerged in beyond the understanding of how we thought as visual, limitations of the arts and the experiences of the arts, now has touched the boundaries, explored the boundaries of technology, right? Now, what does it mean when we look at design as a research practice and research as design? Because both ends of the spectrum, there are conversations that are happening, and where are we at this point in time? So this is more so like a provocation that I want all of you to take part and talk to me about. At the same time, I will just give you some couple of things that they spread out, right? Both Grant Simon and I think it's Martin Wiedmer, who said largely to talk in the sense that design has a certain process, right? And the way we look at design comes from the same fundamental principle about how have you identified the problem? What is the problem? Let's start with the problem. Even sciences begin with that same sense of inquiry with the problem, but what is the approach? And whether research itself could be a design exercise, right? I'm throwing all of these questions and also prompting for us to start talking in these regards. So as somebody who has come from the science field, I mean, if you can share, what are the things that you say go with your approach if you were given a problem statement? What do you think it is? And somebody who is as an arts practitioner who's been looking at the process of your own work, right? particularly artists from the VPAS program, because I see two of my friends who are hardcore VPAS, who are technologists, practitioners as artists. How are you working with, you know?
I think one thing that is design has a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You have an object, but art doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's not functional.
Okay, okay.
It can be functional in the sense that if you want to put it on the wall or something, but it doesn't have a purpose. That
So
is,
are you trying to say that? Yeah.
I mean, it has a
Go ahead,
purpose.
Marco.
I disagree on the absence of purpose in the arts. Actually, arts has a lot of purpose.
No,
Yeah, I think a
in
mechanical
terms-
purpose.
No, I think I
in
know
terms of
where.
practicality.
Yeah, I think in more in terms of tangible purpose is
Yeah.
what
Yeah, and
she's saying, not as an experiential takeaway, right? Because what
Okay, let him
yeah.
contradict you.
Not as a cultural kind of.
I mean, in the practice of intermedia digital art, so there is a lot of practicality. I mean, there are pieces that you interact with that have a practical outcome.
No, but they are not something that, I mean, they have practical, even making a movie, it's practical. You have a,
Yeah.
but we're not talking about that. I mean, when you design something, you design a cup or you design a table, and people purchase it, they can afford to buy it. You can't afford to buy art that you won't necessarily to own. I mean, it's not just about money, it's about the process, I mean, as an artist, I can't go and work for a company that they will pay me to paint or to do digital art, and they will sell it, and I can produce another object also. I mean, it's a different process. But that's not the main.
So I started my work basically as a research engineer. So you had to design a prototype of something to see if your idea worked. And then if it didn't work, you threw it away. And then I learned that artists and architects design a prototype, they don't throw it away, they put it in a museum. And so we helped organize a conference in France on the role of the prototype in art and science. And it really makes you think about similar methods, but in one case the prototype is not valuable unless it works. You throw it away. In the other case, someone who's designing a building, there are hundreds of these models of buildings in museums. You don't throw it away, you put it up. So,
Yeah.
which design approach is correct? A lot of design methodology involves creating a prototype. Do you throw it away or do you keep it?
Yeah. So now I come back. I think we've kind of set the context so that we do have different viewpoints, right? But when we're talking about design as a research and research as design, I think there are two fundamental commonalities, because both of them are approaching to solve a certain situation which is time bound, to solve a problem, and also to ensure that you are creating the possibilities, the zillion possibilities. What scientific research does is the process of elimination is far more rigorous because they need to have the definitive end to see that process complete, right? Now, do all of the work that happens with design land up being innovation, and do they become product-wise? No, because they do take the shelves and somebody builds on it at some point at some place, right? But at the same time, when you spin the wheel and see whether as a research, as a design, right? Research could happen from any discipline, but does it take some of the fundamental principles of design? Because the methods and we leave the epistemologies because scholars keep fighting about epistemologies, right? So that is something that is out of the discussion today that I would like to clearly state, because each school from different disciplines hold their own epistemologies, right? There is a social scientist
Define
with their,
epistemology.
so it's the study of knowledge creation. So every discipline has a certain rigor within which they operate and how they form the basis of that knowledge creation within that space. So we all know that sociologists have a certain way of building that knowledge base within their scholarship and community, and with which might not be the same in an engineering space or might not be the same with another practitioner. So every discipline kind of has a school of thought, a practice, and that's what we're talking about epistemologists. So scientific researchers have a very different cycle when it comes to approaching any of these problems and involving design within that scholarship. What does it do? And when we as designers, when we are trying to see whether if research had to become design, what does it mean? Right? So I wanted to talk to both Evan and Alejandro, because they both are involved in a process of, you are involved in a project where research is entailed, right?
Yes.
So we will take any of the case studies that is happening within the lab, right?
Oh.
So what are the things that you're coming across as your experience unfolds, right?
Yeah.
So with your primary research, what is happening? What is it that you want to do? What's the objective of your projects?
Oh, sorry. I tried. Okay. Is it VR?
Yes, yes, any of these
The
projects.
big one would be the latest one. Over the summer, we had a NASA challenge submission for the Mars XR VR challenge, where we were to create scenarios that astronauts would go. If man goes to Mars, one thing goes wrong, what do we do? Someone breaks their leg, we miss an object. What do we do? So we made scenarios where people would eventually go into VR and try to complete that scenario, whether it's trying to get water piped underneath the surface of Mars or 3D printing a habitat.
So this is a classic example of the design fiction that I'm talking about, right? So now,
Yeah, we don't have humans on Mars.
you have to tell us.
Check
The
it
researchers
with Elon
have to
Musk.
tell us. Not yet, but we're all lining up for it.
Yes.
So this is a typical project that is very interesting as a case study for us to, at least in this conversation, engage in, right? One, we're talking about a future that's unknown, unseen, and it's an imagination within which we are operating, all right? Now, this future is something that is very fuzzy, but now scientists have started thinking of the future that is so unimagined, and they need artists to work with it. That's given. Now we are all working on the same zone, and these interactions are enabling something, right? What is it doing to us as practitioners? Are our methodologies now, in exchange with research practitioners? What are the commonalities that you think are coming? Because you seem to be having a lot of conversations with the folks at the other end, right? Or has it just started? Do you see, what do you think is coming your way with NASA?
A lot of reality checks.
Yes.
A lot of reality
Okay.
checks, because gravity is different on other planets. Radiation is different on other planets. We could only survive for a few days because Martian astronauts would not be dying of hunger, they'd be dying of cancer. So you need to plan this reality out through the design process.
Why cancer?
Because the radiation on Mars is 100 times on Earth. The atmosphere is so thin. All of the sun's cosmic radiation blasts through thin suits. It would take 5 feet of Martian
Paying
ground.
attention. She works with a cancer specialist.
Well, it would be all cancer, but instead of over the shoulders cancer, so it would mostly also be skin cancer, because that would be the organ most affected by the cosmic radiation background. Thin atmosphere means that every radioactive ionizing particle hits, so it has to imagine, okay, so if we have to build something on Mars, like a 3D printer, it's got to be really light, it's got to be fast, something you can throw in 3 seconds. and it has to work. So it has to do a
And you
lot
have
of
to use big gloves.
I mean,
You can't type with gloves on.
no, but you can punch it. Bigger buttons.
So this brings back to some of the things that I've been looking at. How future-oriented is any of these process ready for? You know, yeah,
I
Okay,
don't,
good.
I think we're still very far away from all that.
yeah.
Because I think we're still trying to figure out the now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm in a course called Artificial Intelligence Innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of question around how AI, and a lot of scare around if AI is going to take over our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still not gotten to the point that it can replace the human.
Absolutely.
So it's, I think we're still trying to figure out how we get to the future by like figuring out the now.
Yeah, so that brings back to us as people who are going to be, either we are contributing to the innovation process as responders to whatever is being developed, we are going to be co-creators of it, or we are going to be consumers of it. Either one of it, we are playing multiple roles as just as any one of us is going to be, all right? But also as a knowledge-intensive society that we are turning out to be because of the access of information with all of us, we are all, most of us rather, at least in this part of the world, right, is so much intense that the power of innovation now rests with each one of us in our own rights and in our own ways. Even if we had to say about as simple as trying to do something that is very simple that you want to hack, you have the access to tools, materials, even if it had to be a simple paper prototype, there is access to it. Now, even with a child's school project, there's access to things. Do the design and the research process differ that happens at a school level to a scholarship level, where I'm talking about hardcore scientists looking through the process of innovation and how research has led to them to that innovation? I'm just trying to see what are the levels that gets eliminated when it happens at something that's far more at a younger level, to a university level, to an industry level. Is the research process changing? Is the design thinking process changing? Also given the fact that culturally are we approaching innovation differently?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
If you want me to be fast and blunt, especially with the two Eastern-Western ideologies going against each other, a Western set design process differs greatly than an Eastern. So there has to be a greater emphasis on, well, we have a massive amount of resources versus we have a massive amount of money. Something that can be mass processed versus one-time, very expensive but work.
But isn't the question of who has the interest to invest that money?
Who has the interest, who has the will, who has the power?
The power, and that's what I
And
said.
that's
And
where
who has the power?
the whole point of when we talk about design fiction and in the space of innovation, the question keeps circling back, who has the affordances of design fiction, right? Does design fiction begin with just the thinking and the crazy imaginative power which rests, and it is possible that it could be crazy from different spaces where the resources are way more, far more limited, to where design fiction, where the resources is in abundance, taken out of as they demand that they themselves own it, who's mining whom, whose knowledge is where, and are the processes different? Yes.
So, just a couple of comments, because innovation it's a very loaded word, and we didn't define how do you measure innovation. So, and there is a lot of studies and there is a lot of scholarly communities that work on this. I didn't mention in my introduction, but I'm also an external faculty at the Santa Fe Institute, where there are a lot of people working on these problems, and also at the intersection between what you are saying, design the future through, so I was at a panel a couple of months ago with Ted Chiang, who's is a writer of science fiction books, that was part of this panel about future and innovation and AI and whatever. So one thing is that I strongly advise you to look at this website of the Santa Fe Institute, because you might find a lot of material for
What's
your.
this website?
Santa Fe Institute.
It's actually
SantaFe.org.
Yeah.
I follow them. I couldn't catch your accent, but I follow the website.
Yeah.
Yes.
So on the website you find a lot of information and people that you might look at the papers and stuff. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, innovation means, I mean, how do you measure it? How do you know that something is really an innovation? Where do you see the steps? And this is a, it's a matter.
No, I think innovation is as simple from the basic understanding with where we come from, right? I'm looking at innovation studies as a field of inquiry itself, and I kept talking to Roger about this. When did the field of study come to be in place? And as innovation as a subject in itself is very different from one another. As a field of study, it emerged far more later on in the 19th century I'm talking about. It's only from a lens when economists felt the need to define when the scientific technologies were at best used economically and was making a difference in the economic status is when the studies became prevalent to be seen as a field of study, as a body of work to engage with.
Return on investment.
Yes, return on investment, as economists were looking at it. But innovation in the times that we're talking from the centuries that we live in has drastically transformed. Every single step, what is innovation? Everything that has to be done has already been said and done and it's finished. I think we should all watch this whenever the time permits us. It's called the Six Sigma rule of innovation. This is a person by name Ramesh Raskar, who is an MIT professor, has given this lovely talk, right? He says what had to be invented has been done. What we're doing now is innovation. Either you're adding something to what already exists, or diminishing to something that we're already doing, or you're multiplying it by a factor of n that is happening. So he gives this theory of innovation. So either it is the speed, the fast, the agility of the business, or let it be product services. It's all going to be variants of what already exists. But with the design fiction, the interesting possibility that I've been looking at it is we're trying to look at a problem. It's so futuristic that the current people as we live, we don't even know of that problem that is yet to come in front of us. Yes.
So this screams to me and reminds me about Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, right? So it's early science fiction.
Yeah.
And it was due to advances in electrophysiology, right? You could stimulate the nerves of a recently dead creature, and people all of a sudden thought, well, there's a new possibility in existence.
Yeah.
So do you think maybe that was like a genesis moment and everything comes after that? Or could we pre-prime to have a new Frankenstein monster, which the alternative title was The Modern Prometheus? Yeah. Right? And in a way, it was like a Prometheus moment.
I absolutely agree. So that's where I'm saying, culturally, did we understand design fiction way beyond the term got coined? Absolutely yes. And two, do we see today design fiction as the way we understand? Because globally, the understanding of design fiction has been from only of these popular books, right? But for many of us who come from the global south, our understanding of design fiction is very different because we are very driven by mythology. The text from mythology is so advanced that we couldn't have, at least from as Indologists, if you had to inquire some of these texts, you will see that the design fiction is at another level of experimentation that has happened, and there are roots with which we should be talking to leverage what's there with design fiction culturally to make meaning, because our understanding of sustainability also geographically is very divided. For us who come from the global south, it's impossible for me to even fathom taking a single piece of plastic bag and go to shop and pick up so many things every time going here to Walmart and picking up with those many bags, plastic bags, and coming is like, it's suicidal for me to even imagine back home, because my grandparents and we were told that you cannot bring plastic bags home. You had to take your cloth bag. your worn out dress was made to be stitched, yeah, and you had to reuse it. Where did that go away? Where did that vanish? The sense of sustainability is also changing, right? As the global perspective.
Is it the same in India now?
It is, that's what I'm saying. Now we're becoming more and more aware, and that's where we have started to contest what it was, what we aped the West has changed. And we are now going back several texts behind to say what is it that was distinctly different that we need to hold on to now. And for me now, the design thinking and the design fiction process has altered very differently, is what I'm saying.
But
You know, in California, you have to use cloth bags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In California, it's a state law, so it was mandated.
Yeah.
Don't bring
but
your
they
own
still
bag.
No, you give you paper. I mean, I
They charge you for it though.
Yeah.
They make you pay for it, which is a deterrent, so people don't do it.
10 cents.
You bring your own cloth bags,
Yeah.
and if you don't have bags, they make you purchase. And you know, when I was in Mexico 20 years ago, that was true.
Yeah.
That there were no bags in the grocery stores. You
Yeah.
brought your own, and if for some reason you didn't have one, you had to purchase that, which is a big deterrent in countries like Mexico, and even I think in California.
Yeah.
In India, it's like if you are going in without a bag, you need to purchase to get a
You have to
plastic
buy
bag
it.
as well.
Yeah, yeah. They
So-
made that as
So
a
that
rule.
encourages people
It's
not
better to
do
take
that.
your own bag and.
No, we've already done the worst that we could do for our own land back in India, because the population is something that's unfathomable, right? And our struggles are very different from where we are today situated here. I see whether the questions of research and design, because now as somebody who's trying to get into the scholarly understanding of what this design practice is, and also in terms of when the marriage happens between scientific research and design research, what are the cross-pollinations that we can think through and work?
One of the things I discovered when we started looking at art science practices is vocabulary is
Oh,
an
yes.
issue.
Yes.
And it becomes an issue. I know another project that Evan's working on. I think one of the biggest problems in that group is communication, and part of the problem is, what do you mean when you say the word design?
Oh, yes, yes.
Because different people have a different concept of even of the word design. And
The
then you start to
taxonomy.
get into all kinds of issues of, a biologist and a musician don't use terminology the same way.
Absolutely.
Even though the words are identical, the connotations are different.
Yes,
And it
because-
becomes a big communication issue.
I know, because I've also just been reading the Williams book on keywords. So that's exactly what he talks about, right? So, yeah, and he's calling out loud that my time's up.
It's up,
It was
actually.
just to, yeah.
But it was a fun and engaging conversation,
It
but
got me thinking.
And it was just to open this, what is this toolbox that we're talking about? Design fiction.
So
and what
and
it
as
means.
we're with the advent of AI, we're starting to question what will design mean in the future.
Who's doing it?
Who's doing it, right? That's what we were talking about in our AI classes. Is the value of art going to not diminish, but is it going to not mean as much because the AI can also generate?
See, the unfortunate bit is, what does it do? What does art do? Art is basically, now we are all getting stuck with the very simple facts of the means to an end of the art's form. So I'm saying independent of the form, what is the arts doing? Why do you listen to music? What does it do? Why do some music make you cry? Why does something that you see, remind you nostalgically, take you to a time when you're looking at a sunset that you can cry or you can laugh or you can think of? That's what is art. That's what is the experience that you're trying to, inculcate because of the humane experiences. And that's what arts can do, which the others don't necessarily do that. Because everything else is very clinical. You do this, you need to have that output. If you don't have that output, what is the cost of that input that did not make sense for the output to be spent that way that it was spent or invested?
But when you started talking about design and then suddenly talking about art, maybe you should stay on the question of design and kind of.
The next presenter would be Omar. He has
All the best, Omar.
the presenting elephants.
I'm a JSON major over there in the management school.
This the right one?
Yeah, I'm over there in the management school, and I study global business and marketing. And one of the challenges I've seen, and also in companies as well, is the fact that the creative people and the business people don't really talk to each other. And we're getting to the point where we are starting to communicate with each other. But there's a lot of things that us business people have to benefit the arts people, and that the arts people can take away from us business people. So I've started this collaboration with Professor Molina's lab called Weaving the Gaps. Is our first event.
You want to skip to that?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I can't read that quickly.
You don't need to.
Okay. So this is an event that's hosted in collaboration with ArtSciLab, and it's called Art and Business Weaving the Gaps. And this event we're aiming to really discuss about how the arts can benefit from us, business people. What does creativity, innovation, critical thinking, how do they all thread together? And so some of the topics we're exploring is intellectual property in the age of AI, NFTs, the metaverse, product design, creativity and digital strategy, because these both have the intersection of the business worlds and the creative arts world as well. So this event's happening on October 30th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. in location to be announced. But this was from our okay. So I just want to talk a little bit about with Professor Molina's lab, I'm part of a student organization called Business Professionals of America, BPA, and I just wanted to talk a little bit about BPA and what we do. So, in summary, what we do is basically we have competitive leadership
It's a national organization, not a Dallas organization.
Yes. Evan, can we go to the next slide? We're a career technical student organization, a national organization with over 45,000 members in 15 states, including 2 international countries. We have China and the U.S. territory, Puerto Rico, and we have Texas BPA is one of the biggest BPA chapters in the nation. We focus on events in design, IT, office administration, business administration, health administration, and other career fields. So this is our mission statement. We want to contribute to the preparation of global professionals through the advancement of leadership, citizenship, academic, and technological skills. This is just our spread in Texas.
How often do you meet?
So we have conferences. That's where we all come together as like Texas. We come together at state conference, which
I'm getting busy.
so we have for the collegiate BPA level, we go straight to state, which is from February 28th to March 2nd. And what this conference looks like is we have different companies. We have different types of events that we're competing in. So this is a very competitive based organization. So at the conference, we as students are competing in, for example, I did an event called User Experience Design using Adobe XD, which is a very this school event. And we had to design a video game from scratch and pitch it to a judge, Shark Tank style, that they should invest in this video game and that it will actually grab the attention of the public. And we made this video game based on the escape room ideology, and it was called Atara, where they go from world to world, and it was targeted as an E-rated video game to educate children on how to make good choices. And we presented it at state, they liked it enough, so we made it to nationals, which last year was in Anaheim, California, and state was in Dallas. This year state is in Corpus Christi and nationals is in Chicago. And for nationals, last year the dean of the Jindal School sponsored our entire trip to nationals, so it was on behalf of the JSON.
And how did you do in the final?
Well, at nationals, we underestimated the amount of competition, and only one of our team. Because at state it's not as competitive. At nationals it's very competitive. Because this is a very much at its state level, it's very much a high school organization. But when you go to nationals, there's over 1,000 people competing, and then you realize, oh, I'm not the only one doing this event. But you learn a lot, and you meet a lot of people in different fields at the BPA conferences, because there's also professionals, there's also roundtables like this, there's speakers speaking to us about different topics. So that's why we collaborated with the lab, because part of it is we want to get people that are in the arts involved as well, because we have events in design. As I said, like one of the events I gave an example of is an event called User Experience Design, which is, I think Jacob is one of the lab members who's involved a lot with user experience design, and so that was one of the events I did, and there's so many other events that are in design and communication. So definitely tailored to this school, and we also have computer science events, so we're cross-disciplinary in nature. So a lot of our people, we have people in our club already from ECS, from the computer science school, and then we hope to also have people from this school as well.
So the degree plan I'm doing right now, I just started attending again. But they didn't have one just 3 years ago. It's called Industrial Neuroscience. It's actually Industrial Neuroscience. It's a degree plan.
I'm not sure I want industry in my brain.
Get ready.
Yes.
It is. And
Industrial Neuroscience?
Yeah.
And it's actually part. It's part of a business degree. Actually, it takes. Yeah, I take classes at JSON while I take neuroscience courses. I don't know if you were aware of that. So I'll show up, and maybe there can be a different flavor I can introduce to the mix. But you want art students. I think there's more of an interest from the STEM side generating on campus, since we have where it's Tier 1 research.
Yeah.
And we also have JSON, and it's kind of natural that there's a little commingling happening. Maybe a little bit overdue.
Oh, because I'm the one who interfaces with business in the ArtSciLab.
Yep.
So, the ABLB project, which I'll talk about, and in fact has an interactive element, so we do exercises and things that'll be fun. When we sort of dived into this pond, we found a lot
Actually,
of...
describe your PhD
Well, let's
as a background.
Well, no, my PhD is not going to do that.
No,
So
no, but
well, it really
your
doesn't.
mind, it's the same mind that you did your PhD.
Well, yeah, that would be me. But in any case, Arts-Based Learning for Business came out of an idea that I had with the former director of the Institute for Entrepreneurship and Education and Innovation. Use the word innovation too. Everybody loves the word innovation. It came out of a need that he had identified, that business schools talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. They spend a lot of time talking about we want our students to be innovative and think outside the box and be creative, and yada, yada, yada. And yet their methodology teaching is not that way at all. It's very case study oriented, study a bunch of case studies, and Toyota did this, and and Zappos shoes did that, and and so they don't really teach creativity or innovation. They really don't. You come over in my part of the world, and talk to musicians. We never talk about creativity. We don't need to talk about creativity. We just do it. We don't really sit around and say, well, you're very creative, thank you very much. And all the artists and dancers and visual artists and musicians that I know don't spend a lot of time thinking about this, because it's the nature of the beast, right? We're creative people. We're creating, whether it be compositions or performances or whatever, or paintings or drawings or whatever. We spend our life creating. And so we felt there was a serious need in the curriculum in the business schools for something that would help students do that, and saw nothing really. And they do have a creativity course in the curriculum somewhere, and the woman who teaches it often would go, I don't know what I'm doing, because she just sort of got assigned this class.
Yeah.
So what we did is and then the thing we found was that business schools, you're JSOM, who else is JSOM? You're JSOM, you're JSOM. Your curriculum is so packed that there is no room to add courses. So when we went to talk to the business school and business people and the institute, what they said was, you can't give us a course that we're going to add to the curriculum because we don't have any room for that. It's done. And there's so many classes they have to take 7 times. So what we did was create a set of modules that could be dropped into existing courses. And it's a set of exercises that we modeled with students in our theater program and improvisation that help students to do more than just, you know, what's creative. I mean, we also have team exercises to encourage them to work in teams. We have an exercise we put in that encourages people to speak up, because we also were told by them that one of their major problems, sorry gentlemen, but if we have a team of 6 and it's 3 men and 3 women, guess who do all the talking? The men. So what we did is we created a set of exercises that the instructor can use in a class. And so we retooled them so that there's actually 2 versions now. There's an in-classroom version and there's an online version. So there are 2 different versions that you can use whether you want to do them, you know, so 2 modalities, which is good. It actually gave us a little more flexibility with it. We met resistance from the business schools about this. Well, what are we going to do for it? And then the reverse happened too. When we went into the project, we did the research. We said, who's doing this? But we also found that 80% of these kinds of collaborations are business people telling art people what to do.
Yeah.
And you know what the art people don't want? They don't want you telling them what to do. They're like, don't tell us how to run my business. I'm a sculptor. I know what I'm doing. And they really were equally resistant. And so this is, I think, a difficult thing to do. It's a good first step because these are 2 populations that don't play well together.
Yeah.
They really don't. And so you're going to need to continue the process. I assume this is the beginning of a longer thing. Because really, these are 2 populations that really do have a more, I think we met more resistance from the business school than we did, say, from STEM type.
What's interesting about creativity is when the children are young, they are creative.
Well, we're reaching the end now. Alejandro is.
Okay, let's move on.
But if you guys want to come on Monday, learn more about what we have to offer, please do scan that QR code.
Now we have Nisha, who will be speaking after this.
This is the speaking elephant.
Yes, you get the presenting elephants.
It can be tossed with minimal damage.
That's good to know.
This is our form of decorum.
Out of frustration.
Okay, hi. So I'm Nisha, and I'm working in Professor Art. And what I'd like to, before I start, I'd like to set the background for this study that we're doing. So we have businesses, and every business markets itself. But there's no problem with marketing as such. We're just looking at AI replacing copywriters at marketing the business. So you saw him taking pictures of the organization to put up on social media, and we think AI could do that. But the focus of marketing in our research is something called search ads. So search ads are basically digital advertisements that anybody can put up on the internet basically. So we have something called Google search ads, we have Amazon search ads, we have Facebook search ads. So when you Google, let's say you're looking up microwave ovens, you're going to have a couple of pictures of microwave ovens with their prices and links to the corresponding website. So that basically is a search ad. But the effectiveness of search ad, it depends upon how targeted it is to you personally. Say for example, I'm a student, so I would have no interest at the moment at looking at a house, for example, because I wouldn't have money to buy a house at the moment. So giving me a search ad for a house would not be as effective as giving a person who's in their 30s or their 40s a search ad for a house. So that's mainly how search ads are proven to be effective. And how you actually calculate the effectiveness of a search ad would be the click rate. So just clicking on that corresponding search ad would convert into this number on your Google Analytics, any analytics tool basically, and that number would give you the effectiveness of search ad. But just not the click rate would be enough. So we have something called the conversion rate, and the conversion rate is how a search ad is converted to actual purchase of that particular item, and the current good conversion rate for any product at the moment on Google search ads is about 2%.
2%?
2%, 2.6%, yes.
Is that 2% times display?
No, yes. Yes, 2%.
So if I search it, it's displayed to me,
Yes.
That's actually
That's very high.
Yeah, that's
seems
actually
high.
That's
Seems high,
incredible.
yeah.
So that's.
But it also includes everything like, diapers and, I mean, it's not houses necessarily.
Sure.
It's very, some of the things.
So
And
you have to buy the app in order to have this service?
You need Google Ads. You need an account on Google basically, so you don't have to purchase anything. You just need a basic Google account.
So basically on Google, when you go, you see Google Slides, Google Presentation.
Yeah.
There you have an option of Google Ads where you can just set up an
And the
account.
first 5 hits you get are all ads. On Google.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
you go to Google, it says, and they're identified as ads. 'Cause
Yeah.
Promotions.
You have to.
Yeah.
So what's your project if it's already available?
We're checking if AI can do it better than humans.
I'll bet they can. That would be my answer. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
So I was talking about personalization for search ads, but the problem with copywriting search ads is we have human doing it, and a human's pretty expensive to employ. So say for example you are at your niece's baseball game, and the baseball game needs to be reported in this newspaper, and the school does not actually have the budget to hire a person to write a report on that particular scenario. So in such a case, using AI to write the report would be more effective because humans are pretty more expensive than AI, which is cheap.
So they're not doing this already?
They are.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, isn't this
They are.
already
It's already
happening?
happening. It's
Yeah.
happening at this, on this app called Game Changer.
Yeah.
So where
But
you
I
just
would think
upload
Google
the-
would already be doing it.
Oh, Google has it.
Yeah,
It's
and
available.
Google is not using human beings to do
No.
their ads.
So what's new about your project? Google does it. You are just reporting about it, or?
We're just checking how effective it is because
Okay.
Google just released their AI early this year, so we don't know how effective that is at
Okay,
the
nor are
moment.
they willing to tell you, I imagine. Google's not particularly forthcoming about it. so.
So we just
Okay, what about the context? Okay, I'm getting uncomfortable here.
Context-based?
What do you see there that you don't like?
context.
Okay, well,
I don't have my glasses.
Yeah, it says context-based.
So that's basically
okay,
the
does
question.
gender come into it? Does
Of course.
sexuality
Of
come into
course.
it?
Of course.
It does. No, I mean, they're collecting data about me,
Every
none of
time
that
you do
business.
It says right there, location, the time, the device you have,
Everything.
the age you are, the education level, the
It's all on the
occupation, the
internet.
marital status, the web browsing, everything
Because
you
That's
click
how they
on.
target a personal ad to you.
Yeah.
Google knows that I like certain things. They know that I love music and that I love concerts. So all that they show me
Yeah.
on my Instagram and Google ads is about concerts. So I'm like always the first one to know about
So-
concerts because it knows.
And if someone else uses your devices for a day,
Yeah.
the algorithm gets
But
it.
I'm stuck with the question of
So also-
what's
also,
different about
isn't
what
it-
you're doing.
Isn't it good to get properly recommended just the things that you like? Like the tool is doing something that you want it to do. Why do I need to listen about babies if I don't plan to have babies?
But then
Just
you
talk
don't-
to me about things that I like.
But then you don't get
work
to,
together.
but you don't get the things that you are not targeted. Like, like when you order something from, like online, you order from Walmart.
Creativity
So
is
you only
doing
remember
things
the
you didn't
things you
know about.
know that are sold at Walmart. But imagine you go to the Walmart in person, then you can find some other things as well, which you didn't know that you needed. And it might come used to you. So that's how targeted ad works.
No, but that's marketing in stores. They put all these cheap things when you walk in the door, and then you buy
Yeah, they're
things.
called
that-
loss leaders.
Loss leaders.
Loss leaders in the business, that they mark certain products down as you walk in the store, and you go, oh, I need that, and you pick it
Yeah.
up, and then you keep shopping. So
Targeted.
tell us so we've established they're already doing this.
No, not at all.
And Google's already doing this. I have a daughter-in-law who works for a company called Samba. And what Samba does is they do the analysis of ads for very large companies. Some of their clients are Apple and Sony and all of that. And they literally place pixels on the page that are test pixels. And then they analyze not just that you clicked on the page, but where you clicked.
On the page.
And how many times you clicked that, and in the next thing. And they get paid a lot of money to do that.
And if you read
And
from
also,
left to
if you
right,
want,
you tend
if
to
you
look
want
at
to
the top
hire
left
them,
first.
it's a lot of money to hire people too. So, I mean, they're a huge company with big clients who are paying them millions and millions of dollars to do exactly this.
Yeah.
So when Amazon Prime puts out a new streaming thing, they will place all these pixels on the Amazon Prime homepage, to see who's going.
Okay, I'm waiting for the punchline.
So what are you guys doing that's
let the woman speak.
So it's already happening. We're just testing if it's better than what humans are
So
doing.
you're comparing AI copyright,
Yes, with
copywriting, which is not copyright, that's different. AI copywriting versus human. How do you know?
We will be calculating it based upon the conversion rate or the click-through rate.
No. How do you know it's AI written?
There's software that detects that.
Is there software that will detect
Yes.
whether it's
When
AI?
you write the cover letter with ChatGPT, companies detect that you did that.
But what if it's not ChatGPT or something else? Because I'm going to bet you Google's got their own.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to go bargain.
But then if you read some cover letter, you know that it's written by an AI.
I wonder if
You just know it.
If you think about it, Google that creates the tool to write it for you also gives you a solution. So it sells it to someone else.
So there is a way to detect, if I go and I look at an ad, there's a way to say, oh, that was written by AI?
Same as plagiarism. When you write a paper,
That's a little different, because like when a student writes a paper and turns it in, believe me, I can tell when they write a paper, right? Because the language is wrong and lots of things are wrong, and they don't match the subject matter exactly. But we're talking about little short ads here. We're not talking about 10-page term papers. We're talking about little ads on Google. Here's my pet peeve with them, by the way. So I buy a dishwasher, and I buy the dishwasher, and it's installed, and it's in my house. You know how many ads I get for dishwashers for the next 2 weeks? And I've already bought the dishwasher, and I'm not going to buy another one because I already bought. Can't they tell I bought a dishwasher?
It doesn't really need, it can be as intrusive as.
Maybe you need another one.
I said,
Okay, Mr. Moderator,
That's what happens to me on Instagram. I'm talking,
Okay, so.
like, you know, something like around Dallas,
Okay,
and it listens and it gives me the ad. Like if I say Schlotzsky's, it'll have a Schlotzsky's ad. If I say, oh, this Meow Wolf has just opened in Grapevine, suddenly I get
If
ads for
I
it.
think about getting my hair cut, I
you
get
think
a
about
great ad.
You're struck a
It's
nerve.
true, it's true. It's almost a Futurama where if you soil the bed, you're going to get underwear ads in your dream.
Okay, no, seriously, Misal has been contacting the alumni of ArtSciLab.
Yes.
And one of them was the first year, and you may remember his name. He was going into the movie script writing business. And what he did his thesis on, because in Hollywood now, they have databases of successful movie scripts.
Yeah, it's formulas.
And then you use that data to write a movie script. How many lead characters should there be? When in the movie should the climax happen? You know, and so basically the database helps you write a movie script that has the same structure as successful movie scripts. Now, of course, the creative thing would be write a script that has nothing to do with the successful ones and see if you get in the back door. But this was before AI got involved. Hollywood has a database of all the successful movies compared to less successful movies. And what was the structure? Should the music play at the same time as people talking or not at the same time as people talking?
It was not the same time.
Well, no, you know those things as a creative person. But to me, it was a bit mind-boggling that they had this rule book for how to write a successful script.
That was 10 years ago, and you know that's all changed.
Well, no, now Hollywood is on strike, but the movies are still coming out.
Yeah, for that. But also, the way scripts are chosen now is completely different than that, because a lot of scripts now, my daughter has a guy who reads scripts for Jennifer, not Aniston, different Jennifer.
Lopez.
No, actress. Anyway, some really well-known actors. Every smart actor in the business has their own production company now, particularly women who age out of what the Hollywood companies will do, and they all have their own production houses now, and they get scripts that don't go through that process anymore. And so, for example, if you're, I forgot, it's Jennifer something. Anyway, if you want to submit to the guy we know that reads scripts for her, they better have a strong female protagonist that she can play, right? Because that's the only script she's going to be looking at, because it's her production company. Tina Fey has her own production company. Almost every actor and actress does now, and they now are in the production because of streaming. Amazon's hiring them. All of the streaming companies are now going right to those people.
Make us a movie that does well on Amazon.
Yeah, and then and Amazon has their profile too, you know, about what they think will be successful.
Yeah.
They have the criteria of movies like A grade or whatever that. So they give the highest money to the best movie and then subsequently it goes down.
I think Judd was a student doing his PhD at the same time as this other student. So you asked Judd about the student that was using a database to write successful scripts.
You want to continue that?
Yes.
Yes, please. Show us more.
It's like slide 4 or 10.
Yeah, show us more.
So personalized advertising on a small scale would have cost issues, which is why we could use AI for doing it. So AI is basically machine learning models, and that would be used to generate information. And when I say AI and copywriting, there are already a couple of tools in the market at the moment. Until 2022, the one on the right, left-hand side that are being hidden.
You can see in the other projector.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's over there too.
Yes. Jasper, AnyWord, Copy.ai, and Writer were the top 4 copywriting tools that were being used by everybody. And recently, that is early 2023, Microsoft and Google released their own versions.
So I don't understand. So what is the copyright in AI? How does it work? So AI writes something or write in the app something, and then it becomes copyright. They're basically repeating. Sending information.
Give it data and it produces a
text. I know how to do it.
Essentially writes it.
Yes.
But I just wonder where is the copyright?
No,
it's
copyright.
Writing copy,
As
not
in writing.
a legal term.
Not intellectual property.
Okay, I thought it was
The same word means different things.
You gotta spell it.
Copywriting.
Yeah, what's a W?
Yeah.
You have to spell it to know what you're talking about.
Okay.
So these are the tools in the market. And we have something called generative AI. So everybody should have heard about ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So generative AI is just a subset of AI where you give it a prompt and it would generate new content. It could be text, it could be images, it could be music, it could basically be anything. And currently the major players in the market are ChatGPT, Dolly, Speechify, and CodePal. So the 3 use cases for generative AI is language, visual, and auditory. And the major concern for our case is language, because we're looking at copywriting, search ads, so marketing. So there are the tools that I talked about in the previous slide. We've been testing it out basically. We've been looking at how they perform. And the main tool that I looked at least the last week, is something called ArtSciLab. So ArtSciLab is something where you just give it a prompt and it would basically just generate Google search ads. So there's, in this case, I asked you to write a Google ad description for microwave ovens, and that's basically what it gave me. So the next steps in our process, in our study, would probably be where we test out natural human copywriting, and then we would look at how Google AI ad writes performs copywriting, and we would compare the two, all of it. So comparing it would be using click rates and conversion rates. So that basically is what I have been doing so far, and the future work.
And your plan is to
Do you
publish
have any
it?
results or something like AI and human?
We haven't done that. So far.
You haven't posted any ad or something?
No. We'll be doing that this week.
Okay.
So maybe next
So
week.
who are we? Who is we?
Me and Professor Judd.
Business
Mr.
professor
Bradbury.
Bradbury. No, he's not here.
He's not here
He's not
in this
here.
room.
Jason.
Business school.
Business school.
No, but he did his PhD in this room on the data narrativist. How do you write stories with data? And there his thesis, business people are stupid, they only know how to use graphs, pie charts, and bar charts. Are there any other ways of telling stories with data? And so he did some tests from the documentary industry. And documentaries have many different ways of telling the story. So he applied that to how business people could tell how successful their company, what data do you choose to show? Should you show a different kind of graph than an up and down graph?
Do you have any data about what percentage of ads is already being done right now?
No.
Because there's an estimate right now. Tencent is the internet in China, and China's a different situation in the US because it's all controlled by the government. And so instead of Instagram and Facebook and all these different things, and YouTube and Spotify, there's one, and it's called Tencent, and they're kind of controlled. all of the different internet access in China. There's an estimate right now running around that 40% of the music on Tencent is AI generated. 40%, which is a pretty significant percentage. And we had this conversation in one of my classes. I teach music science and technology. And the conversation was, what's going to happen as AI infiltrates everything? And it's already clearly trying to infiltrate.
The work for real will increase.
And I spend a lot of time showing, I do film and television, music and film, music and television, and play them all this wonderful music. There's incredible music being done in film and video games right now. It's just incredible stuff. And I'm like, what's going to happen when AI writes all this? Is it all going to be like beige?
Hold on a second. A lot of music imitates a famous composer. Isn't that like?
I wouldn't agree with that. I would not agree with that. I will say that
there
was
were musical
true.
styles, and the composers.
Well, a lot of it is 19th century romantic. You'll know what I'm talking about, because the orchestration methods that John Williams uses is 19th century romanticism, and then there was a generation of John Williams wannabes who basically imitated him and did, guess what, 19th century romanticism. That's changing, and it's changed, I'd say, significantly in the last 20 years. That you're getting composers like Bear McCreary. Bear McCreary writes for games. He writes for film. He writes for streaming services. He writes for everything, and his style is not 19th century romanticism. It's very much his own. So I don't think that's necessarily true that they're all imitating each other.
Well, it's human intelligence, not artificial.
But it's still human intelligence as much as it's
the significant aspects of a
right.
successful.
And I don't know that copying is really the right. I have a friend who's a composer, and his analogy is like, you're like a bee that collects pollen from all these different flowers. There's the Schumann flower and the Beethoven flower, but then you put it together in your own unique combination of things, and so you may use some of that. That's possible.
We have a music teacher here.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think?
Composers are inspired by people, but
what isn't music already copies successful music?
I don't know about that.
No, I mean, if we are talking about AI and music, we have to distinguish between AI to generate music that sounds like something that we already know.
It used to sound really terrible, actually. It was pretty bad for a long time.
And AI used as a, from a composer point of view, as another tool,
as a tool.
To make that you do other things, and you can do many different things, both. I mean, not just in music, also in visual arts. I mean, I was in Arts Electronica. I've seen like amazing artwork done with human AI collaboration. So I mean, AI part of the tool set. I mean, amazing stuff, super original.
And though I would say even in the last 5 years, when I've been paying attention to AI music and listening to it, it was pretty terrible for a long time, and it was immediately like, oh, it's just bad. It's like bad Mozart, right? You can follow all the rules that Mozart followed, it is still bad Mozart. Lately, it's getting a lot better.
I mean, because it's all a matter of the amount of data that you train your models on.
And also the sophistication of your algorithm.
But the algorithm is always the same algorithm. I mean, you do GANs or RNNs, whatever, but at the end it's how much data you have. If you have tried to generate a model for yourself, you know how much work it takes. And not your work, it's the computer work.
Yeah, right.
So it's not as much that, I think.
So my question really is, how can you tell? If I'm listening to a piece of music, am I going to immediately be able to go, that's AI?
Why should you tell?
Yeah, maybe I care.
The invention of photography triggered the same discussion.
Yeah, exactly.
The arts are going to end, we now just take pictures.
Yes.
Well, no. Artists figured out to make things that you couldn't. No, I mean, photography was as revolutionary as
they have app that can test, not necessarily in music, but in writing.
Oh, I think they have in music.
Yeah.
Probably in
no, what I was going to say.
But it's not very accurate. That's what I want.
Is also that we are kind of obsessed with this AI doing things that look like human things, but AI is way more than that, and is already used by humans in production processes, for instance, in music,
in scientific research to make discoveries.
Yeah, any plugin for mastering recordings, they already have AI because I mean you do amazing things and your music sounds super good. It's another tool. It's nothing. I mean, I don't fear AI. I mean, I come from again a school of people that work with AI, and they kind of have the same point of view, and I've listened to tons of talks this summer about AI and collective intelligence and all these things.
Where are you based?
I'm based here at the University of North Texas, but I'm faculty at the Santa Fe Institute.
Oh, okay.
And the Santa Fe Institute, there's
Yeah.
lots of people working on these things.
So like the
Okay,
synthesizer,
just
is there a
describe-
concern about, look, they're gonna do all their copywriting with AI now. They're gonna fire people, right? I mean, there is a reality there that if it's all done by AI,
They don't need
then
people.
you don't need
That's-
people anymore, you're gonna fire them.
That's why the writers are striking.
So, I
We have
mean,
a question in the back.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, we don't really know how often, I guess, AI advertising is being done, and it's probably done at a really high frequency, and to add to that, like, quite frankly, who wants to write, advertisements for Google that are like this long, you probably don't get paid that much anyway. So, it's with efficiency, that's one major reason why they do AI, so, but also, I mean, it's probably dying art anyway, and it's probably a job that, I don't think many people are necessarily,
Interested
on
in
to. Yeah, I
applying
mean, no
for.
one goes to college in the ambition of writing
We have
ads.
another speaker here.
Yeah, I feel like a creative, both visual art and music or other creative artwork always happened with the new technology. The oil painting in the past, the precious color and the like the technique of the paint. And after that, in the camera and another record way, and now AI. So I feel like this is the way